Welcome everyone to another interview for our LinkedIn Live conversations with some remarkable humans who have been through our program or been involved in some capacity. This year we're calling on remarkable people who are passionate about removing barriers to people with disability to submit an expression of interest for our SID21 program. And to inspire and motivate you and maybe answer some questions you might have about the program, we're going to be talking to people like Brian Hall here, who's our SID20 alumni and also the founder of CPToys. And so Brian, I might get you to introduce yourself and just tell everyone here a bit about your startup that you founded.
Yeah, thanks Viv, thanks for having me. So I'm Brian Hall, I'm an occupational therapist by background. I have specialised for the last 20 years or so in intervention or therapy for children with cerebral palsy, and I have done that in clinical practice, and I have also completed a PhD and done some postdoc work in this area as well. And what has become apparent of doing both those roles for quite a while now is that while I was doing the research that informed my clinical practice about what to do in therapy and what best practice was, but for most clinicians out there, they don't necessarily get to specialise as well, but they'll be referred kids with cerebral palsy. So there's this very big gap often between what the evidence shows from science and what is happening on the ground. So I have an approach where I've set up a business called CP Teaching, which runs workshops for therapists about how to do evidence-based therapy for children with cerebral palsy. That's one component, and I know that's not going to be the fix for ensuring that clinicians know what to do and how to do it. So in 2013, I developed CPToys, which was an app, and the app was designed to support therapists and families in setting up home programs, which was really to set goals and align the therapy toys that they use with those goals. So really it's a sort of curated range of toys that are linked back to a child's individual goals and linked also to their age. So in 2013, the app was developed. There wasn't really much of a business strategy behind that. There wasn't really any strategy at all, I must say, at that point. And then over time, I actually came into contact with Pete Horsley from Remarkable, and Pete for many years and I had discussions around possibilities with CPToys, and then really quite fortuitously in 2020, mainly actually due to COVID and me having more time because of my clinic closing and courses being cancelled, so able to participate in the Remarkable program, which has really had an enormous impact on CPToys. And I think without going through the program, there's no way that we would be where we are currently today.
Incredible. Thank you, Brian. And I guess that leads me to my next question, in that we're surely going to have a lot of people looking at the program and thinking it sounds exciting, but not really sure what to expect. For those people who might not know what to expect, Can you give them a little bit of an insight of what the experience was for you?
Yeah. So I think the experience that I had was a really supported environment, both from the entrepreneurs in residence, the Remarkable team like yourself, Viv, and then also not just the Remarkable team, but also the other cohorts. So you work really quite closely together. You meet some really interesting and great people doing really amazing work. So there's this energy that's within the group about working towards a sort of common cause of improving the lives of people with disabilities. So what I really needed going into the program, again, as I mentioned before, I had an app. I had a solution to an issue for children with cerebral palsy and their families, but there was no business model around that. So what what I got from that was being able to link into not just the immediate network, remarkable, but all the mentors outside and all these amazing people that donate their time to support you and check in and provide advice and technical tips on certain aspects of, I think, areas that I've never had any idea about, particularly around business development, marketing, comms, social media strategy, as simple as technical skills around doing Facebook ads, etc. So all those things, I really went in as a novice, and I came out with much better understanding of the skills, and also had a much better plan around what CPToys will look like now and into the future. And really that primarily was focused on how will the business look again into the future, and how will we make this a sustainable entity. So yeah, so I think looking back, they were the major sort of experiences that I had during that time.
So great. And you were the first cohort to go through our accelerator program online, which was new for everyone.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
For me, approaching it and experiencing it in different capacity, there was still a really great sense of camaraderie that came out of it. And I guess it being the first time everyone was online, and everyone really appreciating that interaction with people during this odd year, it was still quite powerful. And did you feel that being online, or was it?
Yeah, I think meeting people face to face at the initial boot camp helped a lot. And in fact, that's where we sort of really got to know each other a little bit. And unfortunately, yes, you can always look at the dark side of things and say that we weren't able to spend lots of time in the face-to-face environment. But for me personally, in fact, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. And we had a contingency plan. I wouldn't have been able to do it if it was face-to-face, because I wouldn't have had the time because of my other commitments. So in fact, it actually allowed me to spend more time, even though it was online, with these amazing people. And I felt it actually worked really well. And I think feedback to Pete was, it would be great to have some face-to-face so we could actually spend some time together as a bigger group. But I think the online format worked brilliantly. And I think I got personally what I needed out of the program for CPToys. So yeah, I think the online and I think a hybrid is probably the approach that would work best. I think having the online options also allows me. I was in Melbourne. The program's obviously run out of Sydney, so that allowed me to again probably attend everything personally, rather than perhaps missing a few of those sessions.
Yeah. And it is, when you get used to the online, it does free up a bit more capacity. I find that once I got used to it, it became quite a nice space to think creatively at my own pace. So leading on to the next question, the actual application for SID20, I can imagine it would be quite daunting if someone has never applied for an accelerator program. Do you have maybe one or two tips that you would give people who are applying for the first time?
Yeah, I think even for me, thinking back to that, my application, it was a bit daunting. And I mean, even just doing the video where you have to sort of talk about what you're doing, I find that daunting. I still do. But I would say the tips really would be to try and find someone to support, if there is someone in your network already to support you with that application. I think because there are some aspects that you would need to consider, I think, to really put what you've got forward with your best foot. I think having someone support you rather than doing it in isolation. I'm not sure how you find that person, but that would be one tip, definitely. And I think also I found, just talking to Pete, I know you've got some sessions where you're allowing some of the applicants to talk to the team, the Remarkable team, before. I think getting an understanding of who they are, what the program's about in those sessions will be really helpful. and yeah, getting the support of the remarkable team, I think, to check in perhaps during the application process to ensure that you're on the right track.
That's great. And as I kind of mentioned before, this year we're really trying to tell everyone that everyone that comes through our program is an incredible change maker. You have a proposal for a business, which is brilliant, but beyond that business is a real social impact and a solution to a problem that's experienced by people that you're trying to get out into the world. And I would love to know if on your journey to creating CPToys and CP Teaching, was there any one person that kind of inspired your solution?
I would actually probably not say one person. I would say that there's multiple people. I mean, from a research perspective, which informed the development of this, there's some amazing occupational therapists in my life who have been really supportive about my research, my clinical career, and mentored me with so much enthusiasm, and they've really made this possible. But I would say actually the inspiration that I got for this, I lived in Sweden for a year in 2011, and the environment there, say compared to Australia at the time, is that almost every single person I met of a similar age range then was doing some sort of tech development, building some app, doing something in that space. There was a real entrepreneurial sort of focus in the country in general. It was part of their culture, and that was something that was really foreign to me, being an Australian, because I still don't think necessarily it's a big part of our culture. But that inspired me, and that was 2011. I came home in 2012, and in 2013 I built the app. So that, I think, really was the motivation. So not necessarily a single person, but particularly lots of people in Sweden who are now my good friends, involved in the tech space, etc. That's
great. And that kind of wraps up all the questions I had for you today. But is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap up here?
I'll just say, yep, put that application in and go for it. You'll get a hell of a lot out of it, and yeah, all the best.
So good. That could be our new tagline for the campaign. Thank you so much, Brian. What you're doing is truly incredible, and I can't wait to see all the change that you make in this space. So I encourage everyone to jump online and follow CPToys and CP Teaching. And for all those considering applying for SID21, jump onto our website. The accelerator page has got the form where you can submit your expression of interest. And we look forward to meeting all of the new remarkable change makers that come through our program. Thank you so much, Brian. Have a great end to your year.
Thanks, Viv.